Hello, lovely souls, and welcome to One. Let's talk. I just made my morning coffee, I'm relaxed, I'm in my studio, and I'm excited about today's talk. Because today, I want to talk to you about something that I struggled with for a big chunk of my life, and that's people pleasing. Listen, if you find yourself in this position, if you consider yourself as someone who's fallen in the habit of people pleasing, meaning that you always put other people's feelings and wants and needs before your own, you're constantly adjusting yourself to other people's energies, and you're taking your cues from everybody else around you, from the external world, then in this episode, I want to guide you through a step-by-step process that you can start practicing today to stop feeling less than other people and to take your power back. As a former people pleaser myself, I just want to say that you are not alone. You're not the only person going through this. So I can 100% relate to the struggles and the potential difficulties that this habit has created for you. But that's it. It's just a habit. It is not an identity. You are not a people pleaser. You're somebody who happens to have people-pleasing tendencies. So it's a habit, it's a pattern that you've developed growing up as a survival tactic. You needed to people-please at the time when you were younger to survive. So in fact, that is a smart thing that you did. You adjusted and you coped with your environment with the tools that were necessary and available to you at that time. But you don't need to survive anymore. Now it's time to live. It's time to take your power back and to live. So on that note, if you're interested in working with me, you want to sign up for a coaching with me, then I will put the link in the description box below. You can check out the packages that are available. And if you have any questions about them, you can send me an email. Before we jump straight into the video, I want to introduce myself like I always do. My name is Patil, and I want to help you take your power back by freeing your mind and healing your heart. Okay, I want to take a moment now to describe to you what the energy of someone who people pleases is like. I want to talk to you about that energy through a story. This is a very famous story. You've probably seen it online or you've read about it on social media. But I find the story to be very interesting because it captures the energy of someone who people pleases perfectly. So sit comfortably and lend me your ears. This is how the story goes. It's about a farmer and his son who live in a small village. They own a donkey and they want to sell it. They want to make a pretty penny off of it. Now, the marketplace was very far from the village that they were living in. And this farmer had somewhat of a scarcity mindset. He wanted the donkey to be in pristine condition, to be completely healthy and out of harm's way, so that he can sell it at a decent price. And because the marketplace was far from their village, he didn't want to tire the donkey. So he sat and he thought about this long and hard, and he decided to carry the donkey with his son to the marketplace. They tied the legs of the donkey to a pole and they shouldered it all the way. Now you better believe that along their journey, a lot of people were passing by and they were shooting all kinds of strange looks their way. They were so confused and shocked at what they were seeing. They were whispering things about them until one of the men could not contain himself anymore and said to them, "You two are the stupidest people I've seen in my life. You've clearly missed the point of what it means to have a donkey or a horse. They're supposed to carry you on their back, not the other way around. You guys are idiots." And everybody started mocking and laughing at them. And the farmer took offense to this. He did not like this one bit. And he turned to his son and he said, "Son, I think he's right. What are we doing? Take the donkey down and ride it to the market." And the son did exactly what his father told him to. He climbed on the donkey and rode him to the marketplace. Moments later, they stumbled upon another traveler who scolded the son and said, "What an ungrateful boy you are! Here you are, sitting comfortably on the back of the donkey, while your father, who raised you, who took care of you, is walking behind you. What a shame." And the boy was so embarrassed, and so he decided to switch places with his father. Now the father was on the donkey and the boy was on foot, and they were still heading towards the market. This time now, an elderly woman saw them, and she was mumbling all kinds of comments to herself. She dropped the grocery bags from her hand to the ground and said, "You should be ashamed of yourself, sir. Can't you see how tired your boy looks? Instead of being the grown-up here, instead of being the parent, instead of doing the right thing, you let your son walk in this heat? How sad." This time now, they both felt frustrated, and they decided to do what's fair. And they're like, "Okay, fine. What if we both sit on the donkey and continue our path? I think that's the reasonable thing for us to do." Now, hours later, they finally make it to the marketplace, and there another farmer spotted them and said, "The donkey is not strong enough to carry both of you. Everybody knows that. How heartless can you both get?" You can imagine the state that the farmer and his son are in. They are so confused, they're lost, they're frustrated. So they both get down off the donkey and decide to simply walk to the market. The end. Now, obviously, I did dramatize my storytelling to show you what the energy of someone who people pleases is like. See, every time that the father and the son got some kind of input from the external world, from other people, they adjusted to that over and over and over. This is exactly the kind of energy a people pleaser has. You can see that this energy is very ungrounded, yeah? And to be fair, this energy is very addictive. It's like a drug. It gives you an instantaneous hit of relief at first, but then it slowly festers and eats away at you one piece at a time until you completely lose touch with yourself. That's the energy of someone who people pleases. It's very much disconnected from their own inner voice. It's disconnected from the self. And the person is constantly adjusting their own energy to other people's energies. It will be addictive at first. It seems very rewarding at first, but it is quickly draining and tiresome. So this is why I like that story, because it really captures the energy of someone who people pleases. This is exactly what goes on in them, within their energy field. Moving forward, I'm going to be using the pronoun you throughout the talk, but only take the bits that resonate with your experience. So before we go to the main event and answer that big question of how to stop having these people-pleasing tendencies, we need to ask ourselves the bigger question. Why do we have them in the first place? The main reason, the heart of the Hydra is this, is that you don't think and don't feel that you're good enough. Let me say that again. You don't think and you don't feel that you are good enough, which is why you constantly need feedback. You need approval from other people to remind you that you are. Let me give you a personal example. Let's just make this more relatable, yeah? Let me integrate myself in the talk and share something personal about me with you. You know, I'm a medical neuroscience graduate. I have a master's degree in medical neuroscience, and I've always loved to know how the mind works. You know, all the fun stuff that has to do with the brain, I love it. Now, in order for me to graduate at the time, this was in 2018, and it was part of my master's program that I had to conduct experiments and to defend my thesis after a year of experimentation and research. I had to do these things to be able to graduate. And honestly, I had the worst time of my life at my university. It truly was one of the darkest chapters of my life. I did not get along with my professor in any way, shape, or form. Unfortunately, though, he was the only one that I had to work with at the time. He was on the committee, and he was going to give me the final grade, along with the chairman of my department. He was close with the chairman, so I needed to be on his good graces. And this is what happened. This is the part that's going to relate to you the most. The more I tried to please my professor and to do everything by the book, to do what's expected of me, the less I got. I got less of his energy and investment in my project, less guidance and supervision from him, and just less time spent on my project. The more I went along with his whims, with his outbursts, emotional outbursts, with his last-minute decisions about anything, the less I got in return. And that used to frustrate me a lot, because I would be so angry at the fact that he would sit with my lab mates for hours. He would make time for them at least 2 or 3 times a week, at the very least, to go over their projects and to discuss them thoroughly with them. But he barely made time for mine. He would only meet up with me twice a month, if I'm being honest, as an obligatory thing, as part of his duties as my professor. I'm sure you've had a version of this story, of this experience, yourself, if you also find yourself in the people-pleasing category. So, why is that? See, the energy, like I described, the energy of someone who people-pleases is very desperate. It's very unattractive. I can sit around and blame my professor all day long, but at the end of the day, I needed to take responsibility for this energy. It's my energy. I'm the one emitting this energy. And this is an attraction-based universe. The energy that I send out, I'm bound to get a similar vibration back. My beliefs and the perception that I had about myself and about the world, and the energies that these beliefs were creating for me, I had to own up to them. I had to be responsible for them because they were mine. They were within my subconscious, my psyche, my energetic field, and I'm responsible for them. So, going back to that energy of someone who people pleases, this is what happens. It's very unattractive because when you put the other person on a pedestal, in my case, I put my professor on a pedestal, and you make this person your end-all be-all, you repel that person. You push them away. Because what's really happening, and this is the part that I want you to focus on, this is the main dish of the talk. Because what's really happening is that you, subconsciously or energetically, you're saying to the other person that I have an unmet need. And I want you to meet that need for me. I want you to fill that void for me, to make me feel better, to make me feel like I matter, to make me feel like I am enough. This is the energy of someone who people pleases when you do that, and you repel the other person. You push them away because, think about it, that's a lot of responsibility and pressure on the other person. You're giving them an unwanted job. It is not their place. It's not their job to do that. And when you put that pressure on the other person, then you can 100% expect that they're going to withdraw from you. That's unwanted energy. I'm not even going to say unwanted. It's unbalanced energy that you're sending the other person. And they want no part in it. I can guarantee you. That just makes them want to pull their energy from the experience, from the situation. I mean, take the example of dating. It's the same thing. Say that you are dating somebody that you don't necessarily click with. You guys don't have chemistry. There's no connection there. And you've made it clear to the other person that you don't want to move forward with this. And let's say that they're chasing you. They're doubling down on the energy and the effort and the investment into the relationship. And what happens on your end? How do you receive that? Does that not make you want to stay away? Yeah? Does it not want to make you pull your energy completely from that person and to just stay away, maintain your distance from that person, right? Because the energy of the other person is very unattractive. That other person does not necessarily feel whole and complete in that moment. They have an unmet need. They want to be chosen. Or let's say they want to feel that they matter. They want to feel that they are enough. And if they're not able to fill that void themselves, them chasing you is putting you on a pedestal and putting all of that pressure and responsibility on you. And you don't want that. Subconsciously, energetically, you don't want that. And it's exactly the same thing here with people pleasing. Mind you, I am not saying this to make you feel a certain way. Please don't feel guilty. It's okay. But usually what happens is that there's a core wounding within that comes from your upbringing, from how your parents treated you, from how they behave towards you or maybe around you. And that is playing out again and again and again in relationships for you. So if you haven't properly looked at this people-pleasing pattern within you, you haven't disintegrated this pattern to an extent. I'm not saying fully, abolish it, fully eliminate the pattern and dissolve it. But let's say to an extent you haven't dealt with it. Then yes, it's going to keep resurfacing for you. It is going to come up for you through your interactions with other people. And that's exactly what happened with me, with my professor. I had this unmet need. I wanted to feel enough. I wanted to feel like I mattered. And so I tried harder to get my professor's attention. And I tried to people please. And that got me nowhere because usually that's what happens. When you try harder, chances are you're going to get less in return. And it really boils down to energy. It has nothing to do with your worth. We're just talking energy. You are worthy regardless of everything external around you. Your worth is 100% connected simply to the fact that you are a child of God, that you exist, that you are a child of the divine, a child of light. That's why you're worthy. So we are not talking about worth here. Just to be clear, we're talking about energy, the energy of a people pleaser. So let's go back now to the main event. How can we stop having people-pleasing tendencies? Let me give you my formula. Step 1. I call this the getting to know yourself phase. This is a wonderful opportunity for you. This is a great opportunity for you to rebuild a relationship with yourself, to reconnect with all of you. I want you to imagine for a moment that you are the only person on this planet. Forget everybody else. Right now, they don't exist. It is just you. So ask yourself these questions. Who am I really? Who do I want to be? What are my likes, my dislikes, my hobbies, my interests? How do I want to carry myself in the world? What ideas, philosophies, concepts do I resonate with? Don't rush this process. Go inward and enjoy spending time with yourself. The greatest gift that you have is you. You are your biggest gift. So choose to spend time with that gift. Have fun with it. Ask yourself these fundamental questions. Introspect. See this as an opportunity, like I said, to get to know yourself. Who am I? If I eliminate all this external noise, if I remove every single person on the planet for a minute and I just focus on me, I bring my awareness to myself. Who am I? Or who do I want to be? So that's the first phase. Step 1, get to know yourself. It's the getting to know yourself phase. Step 2, the self-love phase. After you've done step 1, I want you to see this now as an opportunity to fully and unconditionally love yourself. See, when you have an unmet need, and you are going to have unmet needs because you're a human being, it's part of the human experience, that is a perfect time for you to be honest with yourself and to ask yourself, fine, something's not okay with me. I do not feel okay. What is this unmet need that I have? And how can I give it to myself right now? How can I meet that need for myself? Remind yourself, you're different, you're messy, you're precious, and you're human. Own it. Embrace your differences. Embrace your shortcomings. Embrace your shadows, and embrace your imperfections. These are the different expressions of you. You know, I've made an episode on this. It's called You Are Not Broken on Spotify or Podbean. You can listen to it. I'll link it in the description box below. And I share with you a download. It's more like a vision that I got 2 months ago. And it's very fitting to this conversation. So if you want a small meditative practice and you want to know about this vision that I got, then I suggest you listen to this episode. It will put everything into perspective for you, that you are not broken. And dare I say, being flawless, being perfect is kind of boring. Let's be real. So, second phase is love all of these different parts of yourself. I know it's easier said than done. I know. But with enough practice, you will get there. This brings me to my third phase, the third step. And I call it the making peace phase. After you've done step 1 and 2, step 1 is getting to know yourself. Step 2 is practicing the art of unconditional love. And step 3 is making peace with yourself, with everything around you. I want you to make peace with the idea that you are not going to be everybody's cup of tea. Okay? You're just not. And that is okay. Everybody is entitled to their own opinions, and that says nothing about you. Now, here's an important remark that I need to make. Listen carefully. If other people's opinions hurt you, that's only because you believe them too. If somebody tells you that you are ugly, you're too fat, you're a failure, you're this, and that comment hurts you, that is a great indicator that you believe it too. But when you're at a neutral place, you will see that, like oil and water, sometimes people won't gel well together, and that's nobody's fault. Always take into account that there's chemistry, there's connection, compatibility, and alchemy. These things cannot be forced. They're either there or they're not, and it's nobody's fault if they're not there. It's completely allowed for people not to like you, just like it's completely allowed for you not to like people. That's okay. It says nothing about you. It says nothing about your worth. And finally, the final thing that I want to say, the final step, the final phase is the boundaries phase. I want to drill this idea into your subconscious once and for all, that saying no does not mean you are rejecting the person. Let me say that again. Saying no does not mean you are rejecting the person. What it means is that you are saying no to whatever it is that they're asking of you in that moment. You are saying no to whatever it is that they are demanding of you in that moment. You are saying no to whatever it is that they are saying to you in that moment. When we distinguish, we make that big dissociation here between the person and the task or the comment or the experience. We live a better life. Just because it's difficult for you to take up space and to communicate your needs, it does not mean it's wrong. It just means it's new. So it's very normal for you to feel guilty, to feel overwhelmed, to feel wrong even when setting boundaries. That's normal. But this is how you teach other people how to treat you, by deciding what you want to accept and what you want to not accept, by setting boundaries. In my Logos Abundance Academy, I've dedicated an entire module to loving yourself, to establishing a relationship with yourself, and to attracting the kinds of connections that you want in your life. And a big chunk of that module focuses on boundaries, because I know that a lot of empaths, they struggle to set boundaries. So we just reframe the meaning of boundaries, and I give you practical tools and steps that you can take to keep the people that you want to keep in your life, but at the same time, not at the expense of your own well-being, you see. Just the other day, I was talking to this guy I had met about a year ago, and he reached out to me, and we were talking again and catching up and connecting. And he showed immense interest in me for a second, and I really enjoyed seeing that. But then his old behavioral patterns came up again. This pattern of texting me and then disappearing on me for a couple of days. Again, this ghosting pattern, this hot and cold behavior. And I was on the verge of being in this energy of trying harder, doubling down on my energy in the connection. But then I recollected myself, and I reminded myself that, hey, I am saying no to this behavior. It is within my rights to say no to this kind of behavior. I don't want this. I don't want this kind of energy in my life. So it's a practice. This part of the formula, step 4, is very important, setting boundaries. And it's okay if it feels uncomfortable at first. So let me go over the steps one more time. 1 is getting to know yourself. Step 2 is giving yourself permission to love yourself. Step 3 is making peace with the concept of diversity, with other people being different than you. Not liking you is a big example. And number 4, learning how to set boundaries. I hope that this episode was able to add value in your life, to give you a fresh new perspective on how to deal with this people-pleasing habit that you have. Thank you. I really appreciate you listening to this talk and holding that space for me. Before I end this episode, though, I want to leave you with this small nugget of wisdom. The only person's approval that you will ever need, not even want. It's a need. Okay? I cannot stress this enough. It's a need. The only person's approval that you will ever need is your own. Everybody else's is just a bonus. Thank you. And as always, you are in it, but you've already won. Till next time.